Do you regret that?
Not at all.
No.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Look at you now. You're on a podcast.
Look at this.
with
I
us.
mean, you would
Your podcast.
That's right.
The
You would be-
Northwood Church podcast.
Literally tens of followers.
Yeah, no, I had to get some makeup because the new camera angle or the new lighting angle on Sundays
Real shiny.
is very shiny, and so like I'm like it's just all right here was like super red and then my nose and everything. So I got some makeup. It's from Mary Kay,
Oh,
and
good
foundation.
stuff.
it's there's no color to it. It's just like powder, like a clear powder.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So it takes all the sheen.
So
and all-
that's the goal of it, is just to
Yeah.
not have a shine or
Yeah.
a sheen.
a sheen.
A sheen.
Yeah, it worked. It worked. Looks
So you
better.
have used it. So here's
Sunday.
the real question. Do you apply it or does somebody else apply it?
I do.
Oh, man, that's next level when you got
Yeah,
somebody else.
no, it's at
We're-
my house.
We're
so
gonna
it's
get an
just me.
intern.
Hey,
We'll get an intern in the green room.
Oh
How are
yeah,
you serving today? I'm Pastor Jordan's makeup guy.
yeah. We're a pretty big deal.
We
We
gotta
have,
take care of the sheen.
What's my serve team? That's on the
Pastor's
application
makeup.
when you sign up for
Yeah.
a team.
yeah.
Hey, so here we are.
We're here.
We've got a special guest, the most special that we've
The
had
most.
this week.
This week,
I
yeah.
agree.
I went ahead and showed up late just out of respect for him.
Yeah.
Of him, you know.
No, let's share the story.
You wanna say
Let's
it?
go there.
So-
Yeah, everybody watching, this is worth
Oh,
listening
man.
to.
So we're gonna get here at a certain time. Everybody's gonna meet here. It's gonna be good. And so I get up. Everything's cool. Well, I get a text, and I'm like, I'm gonna start texting this situation out. Get on the phone, kind of talking through it. Like, we're fine. I've still got time. It's all good. And meanwhile, I was about to jump in the shower, and we might have to edit this out. I don't know. We'll see. But I had to. I guzzled some coffee. Just guzzled it. Man, I was like, I gotta get going. I was about to get in the shower. Also, my stomach was like, no, we're not getting in the shower yet.
Don't get in yet.
Anyway, so that put me behind, and then I get ready, get my I'm ready. I'm just like kind of hectic, and then I open my garage door to get in my truck, and I open the garage door, and I look in my garage, and my truck's not there. The reason my truck is not there is because I dropped it off the previous day at the shop.
Ah, the details.
The details. You need to be able to get where you're going in a vehicle. And so I had to call, and Micah came and picked me up. And so I was significantly late. And
Yeah.
so,
So that's how the podcast began. So we're all
Good morning. It's a
ultra
good morning.
Good morning. I'm glad you're here.
Yes, yeah, thank you.
Thanks for coming.
it's welcoming. This is how we do every interview. We act like a fool to see if you're
Well, you
really
gotta-
interested.
You got to kind of you got to kind of
Loosen up.
You got to get
Yeah.
loose. You got to get used to it.
Here,
So-
I do want to loosen up a little bit by some news. I kind of follow like those news of the weird type things on social media and stuff. And one of them is reporting, and I snoped it, and it doesn't have a yes or a no yet because it's so recent. They said as of the India moon landing, since then, that humans have left, and this is the number, 20 tons of trash on the moon. Can somebody help me understand that?
Wait.
How many people have gone to the moon, and how much trash did they bring with them?
Does crashed rockets
That's a
go
good
into
point.
the volume of trash?
That wasn't in the article.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking,
Yeah, it's only.
is this
it's gotta be
really
something
what
like that.
humanity is doing?
It's gotta be
We're
something like
already
that.
littering on the moon.
We just left a spacecraft. That's what it was.
It's just
left
one.
part of it.
Yeah, they're pretty
that
heavy.
would make more sense.
Yeah.
Gotta be.
You know what? You answered the question. I was thinking
It wasn't that complicated.
This is stupid.
I don't know if it's the right answer, but it sounds
We're gonna
good.
go with that.
Yeah.
I would say that I think that we should, somehow create a thing that could just shoot our trash into space and
Yeah.
in such a way that it would just go outside the orbit
Yeah.
and it would just keep going. We just
Yeah.
send trash just way
Away.
out there.
Instead of
Come on, Elon, get on that.
Yeah.
But then you wouldn't be able to see the full moon because you'd have these blobs of trash.
Well, no, it had to get past the orbit to outside the gravitational pull of the Earth. So it would need a rocket to
got to get it
keep it
out
going.
there. I mean, is there
That's a lot- I
danger?
mean,
There's a
that's-
lot of
that's a
solar
lot of,
system out there we can throw trash.
That's a
in.
lot of
That's
money
an
just to try to get to.
expensive-
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about we just burn all the trash?
Can you do that? I mean,
And
is that
release
your field of
toxic
expertise?
Not my
fumes.
field of
I like
expertise.
it.
Sorry.
Dude, I did see, speaking of trash, the whole Save the Turtles movement with plastic straws or paper straws.
Yeah.
Apparently they are worse for the environment
That's
than the
awesome.
plastic ones were. I
That's
forget
amazing.
exactly why.
Really?
But they're like, there's actually more pollution going into oceans because of paper straws.
That's amazing.
But
Isn't
the,
it?
but the turtles in Pascagoula came alive.
They hatched.
Night before last, I think it was.
Yeah.
So first time a active nest had baby turtles come out of it in quite some time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know that happened down here at
Yeah.
all.
I didn't know that
Stick,
took
Literally
place.
this
stick
week.
with me for the news of the day, other than whatever
This
he's
guy.
reading.
I love it. You're just like, that's dumb.
I got turtles. I got turtles.
You got turtles.
He's
I got trash on the moon.
I like turtles. Dude, I love whenever things that were supposed to help the environment end up
infinitely worse.
worse. It's like, stop trying, just accept it, and I don't know.
Like it when humanity fails. I told you this was a dumb idea. Give me my plastic straw back.
Dude, this past week we were talking about the Earth's population, and obviously we're like close to 8 billion now. I think it is. We're around
believe
8
so.
billion, definitely over 7.5. And we were talking about how many people were on the face of the planet. Like I think it was around like, I don't know, 100 AD or something like that, and it was like 100 million. I think is what it was.
I believe so.
Somewhere up in there, maybe 300 AD was like 100 million people. And it wasn't until the 1800s where
1800s.
like the population really began to explode.
Mhm.
And but before, and correct me, I think you might remember, before the 1800s, 70% of children died before puberty.
I don't know if it's 1800s, but yes, I don't know the time
For
frame. but
sure,
yeah,
back in the 300 AD.
Absolutely.
It was 70% of children died before puberty because of all of the,
Yeah.
I mean, diseases and everything, childbirth problems and all kind of stuff.
It
It's
was
astounding.
absurd.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, well, we were in a conversation where it was actually talking about Christianity as well, and it was
Yeah.
like talking about the percentage of people that were Christians based on humanity population, and it was talking about like the early church, and it was amazing. We were sitting talking with a sociology professor. Is that what he is? And he was talking to us, and he's like, really, it's amazing that Christianity even took off, because I mean, it starts with obviously one man and a small group of people, but it goes from like this group of 12 to a group of 100 in like 100 years, something like that. But it reaches a spot, I think by 300 AD, that it was 33% of the world's population was Christian. It was just this rapid expansion of the good news, but it was like there's this small percentage of people that were even on the earth. Like, it's funny when you talk about like people making a difference in their life or making a big difference in the world, like, and you'd never actually see the ripple effect. To watch, I mean, we're talking about Christianity at this point, but to watch the ripple effect of Jesus and in the world and how fast and how effective it's expounded, it was astonishing. But
Yeah. I was more just talking about the fact that a bunch of kids died before they were in puberty.
Yeah, you had to make it
Micah
all
went super
serious.
deep.
no,
Micah's
my
like,
brain, I think my
I've
brain
got
was
some
thinking
things to
about,
say about Christianity real quick.
no, that was that same
nerd.
conversation. It was that same conversation.
And
Like,
the good news was spread to all the world.
I felt that coming.
70% of kids died.
But the good news of the gospel
It was all-
prevails.
Okay, Pastor Mike, you're
all
taking it
right,
down a notch,
I'm
bro.
done.
We're not even in the second half of the podcast
Lord.
yet. Come on.
It was cool. It was awesome. But it is easy to make a big difference when there's nobody around. There's the summary. Forget all of you. That's the clip. You can make a big difference when nobody really cares.
There's not that many people around.
But we do have Victor Fetter, and really excited that you're here. We'll kind of get into your story a little bit and just learn more about you. Well, how long have you been a part of the church or a part of this crew, this chaos, this beautiful thing called us?
Northwood.
Well, it's good to be here. Thank you. Thank you for having me. You asked how long have we been involved with Northwood, and I'd say it depends. If you go back in time, we've had relatives here on the coast for many, many decades. And when you opened the campus in Long Beach, is when we started coming during our visits down to the coast. And then we moved here full time a little over a year and a half ago or so. And so that's when we've gone deep and have been regular attenders at the Long Beach campus.
So you moved here, was it from Austin? Is that correct? Or you've moved a lot?
We have moved a lot. I'm sure you'll pick on my story of the number of locations we've lived around the world. But yes, we moved most recently from Austin.
That's fancy when you say
Austin.
around the world.
Absolutely.
Around the world, yes. We have lived around the world.
Literally? Oh man.
Okay, just to start, we'll get into it later. What's your favorite place you've lived?
I'd say it's interesting. There's not a favorite. And the reason I share that, my family would disagree, by the way. But the reason I share it is every place you go is unique, right? So we lived in London, England, and being able to have date night and you drive and you see Big Ben, right? Or you're in your conference room and you see the Tower of London. I mean, that's a surreal experience,
Man.
If you think about Austin, the vibe of music and barbecue, and it just has a special place to it. You think about Charlotte, North Carolina, right? You get the mountains, you get the ocean. So every place we've lived has something special and unique about it that we would say. Ohio, love the summers in Ohio. It's not as hot as here.
Yeah.
Gorgeous, absolutely gorgeous. And so I think it's tough to say what's the favorite.
And so for here, obviously the draw is the beaches, right? And the coastline.
I don't like the beach.
Obviously the water.
Obviously the crystal blue water.
Thank you, but I don't care for the sand. But here it's family. I grew up just south of New Orleans in Chalmette. Yes, I'm a Chalmatian, so you can
Really? So I've known a few people from Chalmette, and a lot of them sound like they're from Jersey, like almost like Jersey area. Like they're such a thick accent. It's almost like a Jersey accent. How was your trip to India? What was that like?
I just got back from India, I guess last Friday, and it was good. I've been to India for the last 20 years. I calculated, have been going there. Beautiful people, just fantastic. It was a good trip. I wish I loved Indian food more, though. I'm not a big fan of Indian food. I'll eat it
when you go there.
Sorry?
What do you eat when you go there?
Oh, I'll eat the Indian food. I'm just not a super big fan of it.
Okay.
But we pretty much stay in Western hotels, and so there's lots of other options available to us. But it was a good trip. Thank you.
Good.
So I'm in your group, and we were talking a little bit about a potential hot take you had on the flight over.
Yeah. So the first time in a long time I've had this happen. I've never had it happen, actually. I flew out of New Orleans going to India. And last flight out of New Orleans, I was flying from New Orleans to London. And they pulled back the jet bridge. They shut the doors. And we sit there. And the pilot comes on and says, this is probably one of the most embarrassing announcements I've ever had to make in my career. He said, we have a cargo door open. But as you know, we're the last flight out, and the ground crew has left for the day. So we're trying to track the ground crew down so that they can come and close the cargo door so we could push back and take off for London, which meant I missed all my connecting flights and just an adventure. But that happens.
It's a good time.
I mean, who leaves so a ground crew guy is like loading stuff up, and all of a sudden he's like, all right,
5
done
o'clock.
for the day. There's a door open right there.
Yeah. Do you ever run into annoying passengers?
Funny you should say that. So I was flying back from India. And
how long ago was this one?
This last trip. So last week.
Good.
And I was flying from Houston to Gulfport. And the gentleman next to me, we had the same conversation twice. And he spilled his glass of champagne on me. And we haven't even left the ground. So that was one of those moments.
Thank goodness it was just Houston to Gulfport.
Yeah, exactly. It was a short flight.
Absolutely.
It was a miserable flight for him because obviously he was not in the best of shape.
No, obviously.
But
he doesn't remember a thing.
He put the old headphones in and life was good.
That was going to be my question is when you fly, is it just headphones, close your eyes, and don't talk to people? Or are you one of the guys that like actively engages in conversation?
I talk to people. I wouldn't say it's my goal in life to entertain somebody for a couple-hour flight, but I certainly will say hi and visit for a short period of time. But most of the time, I'll put the headphones in and read a book, watch a TV show, something like
I
that.
had a mental picture when you said that.
Uh-oh.
Like, you sit down, you're like, "Hello, how are you? Nice to meet you. Where are you headed? Blah 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 blah." Yeah, and they're like. and then they kind of they take that breath and they start the next phase of the conversation, and you're like, all right.
No, an alarm goes off on his phone. He's like, "What? Done?
Gotta go.
Like, done with this."
He's like, I got
Noise
about,
canceling.
about 30 seconds in me, and then I'm done. You know?
But you meet so many interesting people on
Yeah,
the
it's true.
airplanes.
So the first time I flew, I was like super conversational guy, because I was like I'm very interested where people come from. I like to hear people's stories, and or I used to. And,
I'm just cynical, Jade. I don't care about you.
so the whole flight, the first one, I talk, and then like I think the next flight I did, and I got back from that trip, and then the next time that I flew was like 5 years later, and I was like, no,
There's no reason for me to
just
get to
brought
know you.
headphones, and I was like, no. And now I understand. Like I just have the AirPod Pros. I just put them in, and I'm talking. I just don't want to. You know, usually it's also because I'm tired from the trip or whatever's going on. But
You know, it's funny you say that. I was on the plane once, and I knew the person next to me. Like, I just had a feeling I knew them. I recognized them from someplace, but I couldn't place it. And he wanted to talk the whole time. And I got off the plane, and I was telling my wife Heather about this experience, and I was describing him, and she's like, "Honey, that was James Carville, the political pundit."
oh no,
He's like,
Oh,
she's
my-
like, "You missed an hour and a half to pick his brain and
That's
talk to
funny.
him."
oh my.
I was like, "Yeah, I did."
That's funny.
He's like, hey, I'm James. All right, Jimmy.
Shut up, James.
a fellow New Orleans guy.
Raging Cajun.
I missed
I'm
the
gonna watch my
opportunity.
favorite movie, Ron Burgundy.
Exactly. It's Anchorman.
Have you ever
James.
considered, since you travel so much, just having like a little business card that like they can scan a QR code and watch like a little bio of you? And it's like the conversation, so you don't have to have it.
Jumpstart the conversation.
Hey, I'm Victor Fetter. This is my family. This is what I've done with my life. And please don't talk
I don't
anymore.
like talking on planes.
Sorry, I don't have a card with a QR code on it.
Please don't spill your champagne on me.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's fun.
Yeah. We want to learn a little bit about Victor Fetter. Before the career, just you talked about Chalmette. You talked about from here, kind of from here. Like, give us a little bit of your early childhood, family, like just kind of roll through that, and we'll just see where conversation goes. From
Sure.
there.
Well, as I mentioned, I grew up just south of New Orleans in Chalmette, and strong family connections down there. And I was the only one in my family who went to college, and I think that was instilled by my parents. Strong work ethic, strong commitment to the family, and a little sense of adventure. Like, you can go out and do whatever it is that you want to go do. You have to make it happen. So after college, I kind of knew that I wanted to leave the area. It was a breakout moment. I mean, many of our family was in the area. They stayed in the area. Broadly blue collar, worked hard, incredibly hard. But I knew I wanted to go do something different. So went to school at Spring Hill College in Mobile, Alabama. And that's where I met Heather. And from there, I mean, life just took off.
Yeah. So you met Heather, your wife, in
Yes.
college.
Correct.
College sweethearts.
That is correct. She flirted with me first.
That's what I was going to ask.
I figured you were going there since you know a little bit about us.
So did you play hard to get?
No, I was. I
It's the
felt,
first one in a long time. Oh, absolutely. I'm interested as well.
No, I fell hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah. So you
And-
dated in college, and I mean, you're married now, but when did you get married?
92.
How old were you?
That was so not
Come
confident.
I got
on.
married at
Come
92.
on, I don't know.
How old are you, Victor?
Too old. Too old. But yeah, so we met in college. I finished in 3.5 years, and then went off and pursued my career. She stayed on an extra year. I mean, she was a year younger than me in college, and then we got married in Richmond, Virginia. That was the first of many locations that we went to, and then since then had 4 great kids.
No, I'm curious. Was there a moment where it was a long distance relationship?
There was. So that year that I had left, and I had joined a large company, I was doing a training program in Philadelphia and then in Dallas. And so there was a year that Heather and I were apart. The funny part of the story is, yes, she'll kill me for saying this, but she broke up with me every summer.
Ooh.
Oh,
It was
see,
a-
this is why you're on the podcast.
Yeah, we
Every
want to know about
summer.
this.
every summer, and it became a little bit of a joke, but it was also painful. But
I would say so. Why did she break up
I
with
knew
you?
it was coming every May.
How many Mays are we talking about here?
3 Mays.
Oh,
3 Mays. But you
And
can't.
this is breaking news. I
That's
haven't heard
tough.
this.
Heather had some things to do.
You can't argue with the logic. And she said it was an opportunity for her to make sure that I was the guy that God wanted her to marry.
Oh, so she was testing you.
And
Wow.
I wouldn't say testing me as much as making sure she felt that
Testing
same
her.
conviction. And that
Testing God.
maybe it's testing God. I don't know.
So each May she hit you with the same speech?
The same speech.
Dude, I like
Mm.
it.
Yeah. every
You never
May.
switched it up and hit her with it?
No, I'm
absolutely would
not
have.
that quick.
You,
Yeah.
April.
Oh, dude, April for
Hey,
sure.
I got a little.
April.
Just something the Lord's been
Absolutely.
putting on my
Hey,
heart.
real quick.
His phone rings May 30th, and it's her.
I
But he
know.
picks it up. He's
We-
like, "Hey, before you say anything, I got
We're
something to say
done.
to you."
You know, we jumped into a relationship the second week of her college experience,
Yeah.
and she felt that there was an opportunity just to, date others and to get to know who else was out there and to kind of refine who it was that she was looking for.
So I mean, you're talking about, it was a conviction of some sort on Heather's part. Were you people of faith at that point? Were you
We were.
followers of Christ? Okay.
Yeah.
How, like, was that part of your relationship? That you guys were Christians? Like, was that an active part of your relationship and dating?
Oh yeah. So we were both Christians from very young. I mean, when people say, "Well, what is your salvation story?" I would say, I don't have one. I have a journey.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I grew up in the Catholic Church. I taught CCD in high school. I thought I was going to be a Brothers of the
What is
Sacred Heart.
CCD?
Is that where it's like the catechisms and those
Yeah.
types of things?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Catechism. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's just like Northwood Kids, but it's the
with
Sunday
you.
school version for the Catholic
Nice.
Church. During high school, I thought I was going to become the religious order. I thought I was going to
Wow.
become a Brothers of the Sacred Heart, and I thought I was going to do that for a while, but discovered that God had other plans for me.
What did that moment look like for you? God had different plans. Was there a moment? Because I know a lot of people are always thinking like, hey, God, lead me, speak to me. What do I do with my life? Looking back, it seems like you made the right decision.
Yeah.
What did that moment look like?
I think for that particular case, me deciding I didn't want to become a Brothers of Sacred Heart, it was just that clarification that you don't have to become a member of the religious order to live out your faith. The Brothers of Sacred Heart focus on education. You don't have to be committed to helping the next generation grow in Christ by becoming a brother of the Sacred Heart. And so I think there was a realization toward the end of my high school years that said, okay, hang on, I want to be married. I want to have a family, but I can still do these things that I enjoy in expanding the kingdom.
How did you go from Catholic to Protestant? What
That occurred predominantly when we were in England.
Mhm.
We went to England as Catholics. There were not many Catholic churches existing outside of in England, and so we went to the Seoul Catholic Church, and then through a period or a season of, gosh, we felt like the church didn't know us.
Mhm.
We felt like it was fairly routine. And for us and our family, Heather actually led the charge of saying, hey, maybe there's something else more out
Mhm.
there. There's a particular experience. We have 4 children, as I mentioned, very, very good children. We were showing up at the Catholic Church, sitting on the front row and really participating. There was a week at church where another family sat on the front row, and their kids, 4 kids, proceeded to climb on the altar. And the priest approached us and said, you got to get your kids under control. And that was maybe the straw that broke the camel's back, because what we realized is the priest didn't know us.
Yeah.
We were teaching in Sunday school.
Oh, wow.
Our daughter was going through the process of communion as a sacrament. We sat on the front row every Sunday, and he's calling us out for something that really wasn't us.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's when we realized it really wasn't a relationship to the church.
Yeah.
It was, I hate to say transactional, but it kind of felt that way. And so Heather led the charge, and we found a non-denominational church in England that was predominantly an American community. And we fell right in and loved it. And ever since then, we started this journey of being non-denominational through that period.
Seems like a big jump.
It is a big jump, but once we were there, it felt right. It felt very comfortable. It felt deeper. It felt more relational.
Yeah.
I was telling Joel a story earlier. Coming back from England to the U.S., this was a career move. We had to find a new church, and we had a thing when we were looking for new churches. We'd go to the same church 3 times, because you never know what the message is going to be. Visiting pastors, off days, etc. This is before everything was available on the internet. So some time ago, we went to visit 3 churches, 3 different weekends in a row. And the first church, the message was on giving and tithing. You're like, oh, gosh, it's this one, right? The second church we went to, the message was on
Giving
and
Oh
tithing.
no.
The third church we went to, you want to take a guess what the message was on?
No. Wow.
Are you serious?
It was on giving and tithing. But I realized that was actually God talking to me.
You weren't giving or tithing.
I was not giving. Absolute. That is correct.
Wow.
That is correct.
So at what point did you realize, okay, this is God talking to me? So was it ever like, this is stupid?
It was Heather going, do you realize he's talking to you?
Wow. Heather is like the Holy Spirit for you.
She is.
That's what it seems like.
Very much. But my point is, I think all of our stories and our faith journeys, they grow constantly. We have to be on the lookout for those different experiences. And that was a step for us that said, okay, it's time to go deeper. We were serving, we weren't giving. Now it's time to give. And it's just that journey that we were on.
Wow.
On the career side, I think it'd be good to talk a little bit about what do you do? How in the world did you end up moving all over? And then in the midst of career decisions, career moves, you're still an active Christian. It seems like these 2 worlds are merging or attempting to coexist. And in a lot of ways, in today's world, it feels like one's going to push the other out. How did you navigate? Did you do it well? Like, there's a lot of questions in there, but
Sure.
what's that make you think
I'll start, and then I'll let you pick and choose your own adventure through this.
I love those little books
Yeah,
where
exactly.
you pick this one.
Okay, exactly. That's how my life is. I started out, and certainly I went to college wanting to be a pediatrician.
Okay.
That lasted about 3 weeks of biology, and
Made it 2 weeks longer than I would have.
and then it was like, okay, I need a plan B, and through plan B, what I discerned is I love computers. I had a Commodore 64, which was probably launched before any of you guys were born, but 64K was the computer, and I would program on the weekends and at nights in high school, and so I decided to go into technology as a career, and that's what I ultimately graduated in. And early days, I was an engineer. I created systems, and my focus was on insurance and banking. And so that's where I was. And shortly after my career, shortly after that engineering period, I realized I really didn't like coding. And what I realized was computers do what you tell it to do, and there's no fun in that. And what I discovered, and it wasn't a process of discovery, that I really enjoyed leading people. I enjoy creating strategies for large organizations, and I can do that in the context of technology. So lo and behold, one of the first big programs I led was online banking. Now today you take that for granted, but way back when it was the premier thing that most banking,
like, it just wasn't in the world at that point.
It was not in the world at that point.
So you're part of the introductory to online banking.
Correct. I worked for a bank, which actually was the grandfather of Capital One. So the first systems in Capital One were the systems that I and my team engineered.
Nice.
Holy smokes.
Way back when. And so I realized that that's where I really enjoyed was the art of leadership and helping people bring technology solutions to life for enterprise organizations. And it's through that I have had so many rich experiences in leading large technology teams and using technology to transform organizations. And I think so that's how the journey to my career today, and that's what I do today. I think the journey of faith was alongside that, because we had to make big decisions along the way. Do you want to move to Chicago? Do you want to go to England? When are you going to come back? Do you want to go work for Dell Computer? Do you want to go do ... And all of those created, I think, moments for us to reflect on, what does it mean for us as a couple? What does it mean for us with one child? What does it mean for us going to England with 3 and coming back with 4? What does it mean? Or all those questions that they weren't always easy. They were hard decisions that we had to make. And you can only do so by having faith and understanding, I think, where God wants you at a point in time. I think early career, I was chasing the dollar. I was chasing the experience. I was chasing the title. Mid-career was really about, I think, that shift to what's best for the family and what does God want from our family.
Were there moments where an opportunity would come up where, I'm assuming it was more money or something like that, and it's going to be a move for everybody. What did it actually look like when, okay, company XYZ has given an offer to Victor? Did you go to Heather? Did you go sit in a closet for 3 hours and pray? Like, what did actually, God, what do you want me to do with this? What did that moment or moments look like?
I think every moment is different, but certainly Heather was always the first in the conversation, because it was our career. She worked inside the home, and whatever I would do would impact her, right? She would be the trailing spouse, if you will, to wherever the next period was. I think the best example I can give you, Micah, is we were making a decision on whether or not I should leave Dell Computer and take on a different job. And it was tough. That was probably the biggest career decision that we had to make, because the family was settled in Austin, 4 kids. They were involved in their church. They're middle and high schoolers. Like, that was like probably the biggest decision. It was easy from a career perspective. Oh yeah, I want to go do X. But from the family perspective, that was the toughest. And I remember it was Thanksgiving week. Don't ask me what year, because I don't remember. But Thanksgiving week, and we pulled out of the driveway, and I told the kids we have to pray. And I said, we have a decision to make, and by the time we pull back in the driveway at the end of Thanksgiving week, we'll make the decision as a family. And that was trusting of the family. That was just being vulnerable and putting it all out there. But here's why we felt comfortable doing it. The church at the time we were going to was doing a series called 60-60. And the series was every 60 minutes, spend 60 seconds talking to God. And through the whole week, the whole family, you set the alarms on the phones and everything. You would say, I'm going to spend a minute just talking and digesting what I'm supposed to be taking in from this particular moment, this particular experience. And that brought us together as a family. Now, for the kids and the younger ones, they were like, just give us the answer. Just give us the answer, right? They just wanted the answer.
Yeah.
And we went through periods. My oldest daughter, Ashley, at some point said, you should take the job, but we're going to stay in Austin. Like, no. It's a family. We're not going to split the family. That was not what we wanted to do. But my point is the career and the faith at some point intersects, and you can't have one without the other.
So I'm assuming that moment that you're talking about is mid-career, because a minute ago you were saying early on in my career and then mid-career, because you kind of led us to a spot that said early in my career, I was maybe a little bit more about titles or money. What was the breaking point where you went from early to mid-career, where it wasn't about that and it became a little bit more about that? Was there a moment, or did you make a decision you regretted, or what had happened?
I don't know if there was a moment. I think, the opportunity to work at Dell Computer in this story is probably that time where I would say we segued a little bit from maybe more of a mature career trajectory versus chasing the opportunity or the title. And I think it was the richness of our faith that really brought that to light. And I think that's where it really happened.
So you're talking about the grandfather company of Capital One, and then you're talking about Dell.
There's a
This is
couple
all
companies in between.
Is this
but
all in the 90s?
It is, yeah.
It is. So
Early 2000s too.
yeah. What is the? I'm curious. What is the Dell story? What did that? How did you get that job? And then what did you do? And whenever you were there, like what were you a part of?
So we were living in Chicago, just back from England. We came back from England. We had to come back from England, tax reasons and other things. Came back from England. We're living in Chicago. And I knew I had to leave the company where I was working at the time. Under investigation, they had lots of challenges. It was just time.
Yeah.
And Dell kept calling, and I would say, no, I don't want to go work for Dell Computer. And I was pretty convicted about it because I just heard stories about, almost like the cobbler's children, right? The technology at Dell was maybe not the strongest. And then I got a phone call and said, Michael wants to talk to you.
Michael, as in Michael Dell?
As in Michael Dell.
Oh, okay.
And and I'm sorry, you don't pass up that opportunity.
Yeah.
Hello,
And
Michael.
so I had the opportunity to go and visit with the team at Dell. And I remember I was on the plane flying back from Austin, and I'm talking to Heather about processing the day. And I remember her saying, she says, you don't need to say any more. I hear in your voice, we're moving to Austin, aren't we?
Wow.
And that was our journey of moving to Austin. I did a couple different roles at Dell, but probably the claim to fame at the time and most of my time at Dell was running Dell.com. And at the time, that was almost bigger than Amazon at the time for that point in time.
Yeah.
And I had a lot of fun doing that.
Wow.
Yeah, you said you like to lead
I
people
built
out of
the internet. No big.
Yeah, I mean, how many people are you leading at that point, or underneath your leadership?
At Dell, at that point, it's probably a couple thousand.
What was your title at Dell?
I was the Chief Information Officer of Online.
Gotcha.
So why didn't you stay there forever? It seems like that's the heyday.
It was, and we had a great time at Dell. And Dell, I think, continues to be a great place. But you get to a point in your career where you want to progress and grow. And that path was getting harder. I mean, when you're the Chief Information Officer, like, there's not really anything above you, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to go do that. And at the time, and when we had to make this decision, this family decision, it started out by a friend of mine said, hey, Bain Consulting is doing some work with this other company. The CEO would like to talk to a CIO, a Chief Information Officer, about what to look for in the role. And so I jumped on the phone. It was really like a 30-minute consult of, here's what to think about the role. And we ended up spending an hour and a half on the phone, and I knew it was going to work out at that point. So it was just a courtesy call of what to look for in a role. And I got so excited about what they were doing and wanted to go be a part of it. That's where the road to North Carolina began to come to life.
So you were consulting on the phone, telling them what to look for.
Correct.
And little did they know they were looking for you.
They knew that they were looking for me before I did, I think. But,
It was a little consultation.
I was a little slow on the take, I think.
That's funny.
So at some point we were talking, and you had mentioned something at some point, a presidential administration.
There was a candidate, the presidential office had reached out, and they were looking for a chief information officer to run their campaign, and to ultimately go into the White House. But I chose feeding my family over volunteerism.
It was a volunteer position
at that point in time. It was paid, but it was
not a lot.
Not a lot
for you. It was volunteering.
It was
basically,
volunteering.
Yeah.
So I missed out on that opportunity, and yes, that individual became president of the United States.
Do you regret that?
Not at all.
No.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Look at you now. You're on a podcast.
Look at this.
with
I
us.
mean, you would
Your podcast.
That's right.
The
You would be-
Northwood Church
Literally
podcast.
tens of followers, 20s of
Won't
subscribers.
God do it? Won't God do it,
Won't he
Victor?
do it? Look what he did.
Oh my
Hey
God.
man, hey, maybe we can upload this to your channels. and actually-
You'll get 11.
It'll be Heather.
Oh no, that's amazing though. So
It is.
you've had. Let's just be honest. You've had incredible opportunities.
I have.
You've been a part of some of the biggest companies,
Yeah.
and
Incredibly blessed.
Yeah, it's amazing. So, how old are you now?
54.
54. So you still got years of of productivity and life ahead, like a lot. Are you looking to actually continue to progress, or do you feel like you're at the sort of at the end of your career? Like where do you feel like you're at in regards to that?
Yeah, I would say certainly we're closer to the end of career.
Yeah.
Have I defined exactly what that looks like? No.
Yeah.
I'm open to whatever God and others have in store for me. But I think toward the tail end, I've been, like I said, incredibly blessed. I've done lots of great things with lots of great companies. Some not so great.
Yeah.
And I've learned from those experiences as well. And I'm still exploring right now. What does it look like? What does a post-career retirement world look like for Victor? It's not. I think with all these career decisions, they're not. It's like you go to a book and go, okay, this is step 2, this is step 3, this is step 4. I think you get shaped by those who are around you. You get shaped by the family and the community, and we'll see where it takes me.
Yeah, I'm thinking about people that watch the podcast who are like, younger people, and they're thinking about career paths and stuff like that, and obviously the career path that you've went on is, I'm just thinking about from a technological career path, computers and you've done a lot of security stuff, right?
I have.
So obviously that is huge, and that's
yeah.
going to only increase, and so there's obviously going to be people.
We're hiring.
You're hiring. NC Unscripted at Northwood.church. You know, send it in. We just became a portal for
We'll call you for a
My candidates.
We're funneling
Send
people
some
to
candidates
Victor.
my way, please.
Hey, we'll get a cut of their
That's what it is.
Hey, this
There
is a
we go.
business
This
plan.
becomes a
happening.
Ponzi scheme.
That's our budget for the production, bro.
Wait, we can buy real cameras. What would you say to somebody that's younger? They might already be in college and
Love
they're kind of wanting to go this direction in life. You've honestly, you've been extremely successful in this career. So what advice would you give? Even if it comes to like certain things to study or certain, you talked. I'm throwing a bunch of things out there, and you can kind of just decipher. You talked about like the people path, like honestly leading people versus being the one that's doing the coding, or I think that's an interesting thing. Maybe a gift conversation there. I don't know. What advice did you have for a young person?
I think the advice that I would give is agnostic of which profession you're in. I think what I've learned is you have to have fun doing what you're doing. And if you're not having fun, it's probably not your calling. It's probably not your thing. I think the second I would say is be bold. Discover what you want and go get it.
Yeah.
And that may require studies. It may require, networking or connections you need to make. But be bold in your thoughts. And when you have that bold and that passion, you create an unstoppable force within yourself that I think will help you achieve, your dreams, your hopes and dreams. I think the third is build your board of advisors. And that is, who do you look to bounce ideas off of, to learn from, to seek counsel from, and those same ones that'll slap you upside the head when you make a bonehead decision. And I think if you do those things, you can create a path for you that aligns with what you want to go get and what you want to go do. And when you do that, it's amazing how things just kind of fall into place. I think when I think about those early days when maybe I was a tad bit more selfish or self-centered, or it was so hard. It's hard climbing the ladder, right? But when you discover that you're having fun, you're enjoying what you're doing, you're making a difference, you see the results of your work, you have some friends and advisors that can continue to help you grow and achieve great things. That's when you're thriving. And I think that's agnostic of any profession. I think you can take that advice, hopefully, and do something with it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It is. Dude, I love the board of advisors. Like, what are some practical ways that you did that? Like, how do you select who's on your board and who's not? What does that look like for you?
It's you find friends or people that you respect, and sometimes it's hard. Like, yes, you have to go to networking dinners, and you're going to find a nugget here and there, but there's probably 10 people we can get on the phone right now and say, tell us the best and worst of Victor, and they would have a field day, right? But I think you have to curate that over time, and you'll discover some maybe aren't as real friends as you thought they were, right? Because you can't count on them in a certain spot or whatever the case may be. And so as I even think about, steps that I've taken in my career, they've been helpful in networking, connecting me to even get to those steps. You can't go out tomorrow and say, I'm looking for the 10 that's going to be part of my board.
Right.
Yeah.
It's one here. It's 1-2 years from now. But over time, when you get to, be ancient like my age, you do have that core that you can go to.
When it comes to those people in your life who can speak into your life, they can say whatever they want. They can correct you. They can encourage you, and like their voice matters more than anybody else's. And I've got people in my life that I've realized in the last couple of, specifically the last 4 or 5 years, how important those people are in my life. Not just for now, but I can see on the trajectory of my life the huge responsibility that they have to help me, but also my responsibility to reach out for that and to cultivate that and maintain that. And I've seen in the last few years, and I've said this pretty openly, like in the last 4 or 5 years, if it wasn't for the men in my life who have spoken into me, I genuinely would not have been able to make it. It's been a weird last few years. I would have not been able to make it. My marriage, I think my marriage would be good. I think my family would be good. But
that's about it.
That's about it. I would have quit because I didn't have the proper perspective. I didn't have the experience or the perspective to be able to understand and decode what was going through my emotions and my mind, and I was discounting my ability to even do what I'm doing. Yeah. Anyway, I just really
I think there was something you said, and I don't even know if you realize you said it, but you have to give probably 2x more than you take.
Yes,
and so you have to ask yourself the question: whose board of advisors are you on? For whom?
Yep.
And that's the community aspect of it.
Yeah.
Right. Because you have to make that investment in someone else.
Yeah.
If you kind of expect it in return, it doesn't have to be a 1-for-1 of that person, but that's how kind of the community operates.
Oh, I got a guy right now. He's actually one of my overseers, and he was on a trip for a while and vacation. He kind of took some time off, and anyway, we hadn't talked for a few months, and I texted him and said, "Hey, man, I know you've been busy and stuff like that. Just really want to catch up and jump on a FaceTime soon." Yeah. Why? Yep. Well, it's a cultivation of a relationship, and at times I'm needing to instigate that. And I think one thing that I hear people say a lot, they're looking for mentors. They want to be mentored. I want to be mentored, and everybody's like, "I want to be poured into. I want to be poured into." And then I'll start saying, "Well, man, I've got these people in my life," and they're like, "Well, yeah, I need that." I'm like, who are you chasing? Who are you going after? Yep. To sit and wait for somebody magically just to decide, God put on my heart to mentor you, and they're gonna call you every week and follow up on you. No, what you're really wanting at that point, you're asking for a psychologist or something. You know, you're wanting God to literally give you like a coach for free. And it's like,
you're looking for a parent.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. Yeah.
And it's like, no, there's a point in life where if you want to grow and if you want to have that in your life, you have to pursue that. And I've just realized that more and more. Anyway, I just really connected with what you said in that part, and I think that's really helpful for a lot of people to hear that. Yeah.
So, just practical questions based on those two thoughts or a few thoughts. Is there a point in that relationship where you? It's like when you're dating a girl, but you officially ask her.
Every May we end it.
Well,
we start over.
No, is there an official ask at some point where you say, "Hey, I'm going to you because I want you to be that," or is it a natural development? And also, is there ever a moment when you end mentorships?
I think I'm trying to think if there's ever an ask. Maybe the first time out of the box, you may, especially if it's a blind email or whatever, a blind connection point, you may say, "I'm asking for this purpose."
Yeah.
But I think over time you realize that they're just good friends.
Yep.
Yeah.
They're good friends and they're lifelong friends, and it just evolves to that. I do think the challenge point is you have to think of this board of advisors almost as your own investment portfolio as well.
Okay.
You can't be invested in the same type of stocks.
Yeah, right.
So you have to find a board of advisor that brings diversity.
Yes.
I think there's a set of diversity that has to come when you're putting this together. Like if you're in college, you can't just have everybody that goes to your university. First job out of college, early in career, you can't just pick people that are in your company.
Yeah.
You can't just people that are in your industry. You've got to find a way to mix it up, because those perspectives, those outside in perspectives are the ones that I think cause some discomfort.
Yeah.
And maybe they present the opportunity to change and for you to maybe strike a different path.
So your board of advisors.
Yeah.
We know your career field.
Yeah.
So what are the personalities of the people that are on your board of advisors? We don't need names, but like, are they all in technology? I mean, based on what you just said, I'd assume not.
No, they're not. So like, one is a good friend from our very first small group. One is an older gentleman who built his own company, and he happens to be in the technology space. It's just all different walks of life. I think the thing that we have to think about is the role we play in other people's lives. And maybe it's not a board of advisor, maybe it's not a mentor, but I think of our 4 kids and their engagement with the church. I don't think Heather and I have a secret sauce of, why do we have 2 pastors? I don't think there's anything we did, but I look at the people that poured into them, as they were growing up. Those are the people that, I don't know if take credit's the right word, but those are the people that grew them to who they are today. And then they're their advisors at a point in time. But I think they didn't go and ask for those advisors. They're people that have poured into someone else. And I think, that's the challenge point. I think the challenge point for us and everybody listening is who are you going to pour into today?
Yeah.
That's good.
Who are you going to pour into tomorrow? That's the opportunity for all of us. Because gosh, you have a lot of fun doing it too.
Yeah.
You have a lot of fun doing it. And half the time you don't even know that they actually needed it.
Now, you said something. I have to deviate because it triggered a thought. You've got 4 kids.
I do.
You just made reference, 2 of them are pastors.
Correct.
They all love the Lord.
They do.
You were a very busy family. How do they still love the church? How did you prioritize church? Or what did that look like growing up? Because this is a real conversation in our world, everything is so busy. Yeah. You were a busy family.
Yeah.
Did you do it well? Did you do it bad? How do they still love the church and love Jesus?
I think we prioritized it as a family. Like we knew it was Sundays, and that was our commitment as a family. I think Heather and I, for years, went to large churches, and we would always go to church first service, serve second, weekly, and the kids saw that. Like that was just what we did. And that engagement, I think, inspired maybe too strong of a word, but they just accepted that giving back to the community and being part of the church family was something we did. Barring whenever I travel, we prioritize family dinners. And even when I travel, Heather prioritized, family dinners. And I think those are some of the things that we did to help us as a family unit. Mm-hmm. As well as to help us engage. But this idea of calendar management, I often tell people, and I've learned the hard way, is do you manage your calendar or does your calendar manage you? And you have to be intentional about managing your calendar. Like, I'm going to be home for dinner. I'm going to work out at this time. And there's only so much time in the day, right? So, but if you prioritize, your spouse, you prioritize the kids and the family, and then you start working things around it, you can control your calendar. But I think that then stumbles. This is a long answer to the question. But I think that stumbles into how, as a leader, you show up. You have to be willing to delegate. You have to trust the team you've built around you in the corporate world. Right. You have to trust the team around you because you can't do everything.
Yeah,
you can't. I mean, it's impossible. But you have to trust that the people you've hired, the people that you've brought on board, that they'll represent the organization, they'll represent you well, and you got to give them that authority. Think about, early in career for any of us, at some point somebody gave you a chance. We owe it to the next generation to give them a chance. And so I think if you prioritize family, you manage your calendar versus your calendar managing you, and then you trust the team around you. I think those are what I found to be kind of the nuggets of success for us.
That was
That's so good.
so,
dude.
dude. Like that whole section is pure gold.
Yeah.
We live in a culture that prioritizes everything wrong. Like overall,
Yeah.
honestly, like what I mean by that is not that everybody is prioritizing wrong. I mean, we have our American culture says the things that are the most important are not the important, and vice versa. And so, what you said, church, literally showing up, and honestly, let's just be real. There's some things that if I say them, or Micah, or anybody that's on staff at a church says them, people automatically assume that we're saying that because, like, man, you should be at church. People assume that we're saying that because it's where we work.
I'm trying to get something out of them.
Yeah, like guilting people into showing up, and so sometimes it's hard to even put into words maybe what we're feeling. It's easy for you to say, you're a pastor, and it's like, man, that's not why I'm saying this.
The reason we say those things to prioritize is because we want people to make it. We want them to be 55 and look back and say, I love my spouse still. My spouse still loves me.
Yeah.
I love my kids still. The kids still love me.
Yeah.
And we still love Jesus.
Yep.
We love the church. It takes that. So the heart is so that people can have that, so that they can be whole. They can be the way that God created the family to be.
Yeah.
But it takes the daily discipline. To inherit the richness of what a family can be takes the stewardship and dedication and the perseverance and faithfulness of a family throughout all the teenage years. So I thought it was just
Yeah. It's
so
values,
rich.
but it's also priorities. So
It is.
the calendar part, we've been talking to Tom just as our family, like looking at you guys, like you guys are busy with older kids. We have younger now, but we're like, we're going to do one extra thing. Like we're going to double down. We're not going to be the family that's running around to 6 different events. Like we're not going to kill ourselves for our kids' extracurricular things that really don't matter that much.
What
like,
did that look like for y'all?
Yeah.
Your kids.
You know, with 4 kids, we were always running around someplace. And at some point, we had to learn, and we had to have the conversation with the kids of, you get to pick one extracurricular activity.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I've done too. We didn't know that, but that's awesome.
Because you know, you can experiment with different activities.
Yeah.
You know, you can do basketball one season, soccer another season, football another if you'd like. But at any point in time, you have to do one, because when you start thinking about times 4, that's a long weekend.
Yeah.
That's a long weekend of bopping around at tournaments and other things. And I think that worked for us. It gave the kids a chance to experience different activities, but also decide what they wanted, their thing. And we did our best to make them family activities. When we did soccer tournaments, or Brandon went through a season in doing football tournaments or band, we showed up as a family, to support the child that was doing their activity. So best we could, we would make adventures out of it.
Yeah. I like what you said too about that worked for us. Like it's not the prescription. Like some families might be built where they can do multiple things. And I think that's good, but it goes back to the point of you have to manage your calendar, and like you have authority over your time. And I think a lot of people forget that. Like you have authority over your time. So if you don't like it, like go look in the mirror, because that's who's responsible for it.
I think for young families though, it's the kids are watching.
Absolutely.
I mean, meaning they're observing, they're learning. You're setting the tone of how they're going to raise their family and their kids, and I'm sure we did many things, and that we'll look back and go, we didn't do that right.
Yeah,
all of us will.
Heather will joke and tell the kids sometimes, I'm just giving you something to talk to the counselor about. Right? There are things that we probably stubbed our toes on, but as long as we've got these broad guardrails of how we want to operate as a family, and we operate within those, we go to bed feeling good about it.
Yeah, the uniqueness of each family is important.
It is.
The and how so the question, like, how do you know if it's working for your family? The one thing that I want to hear your thought. My thought is, this is how we've always interpreted that, because again, you said some families can do more than others or whatever. My thing is like, is there peace?
Yeah.
Is there or chaos? Is there arguing and frustration and confusion around what's going on? Is everybody tired, just worn out, and also are we losing the intimacy of our family, the connection?
Yeah.
And if we're losing any of that, or we feel like we're losing control, or there's chaos, either we need to shut something down, we may need to grow and get better and be more organized in order to be able to handle more as a family, but also not, if we can't, then something's got to give.
Yeah.
Like that's the kind of the way that,
we may grow through saying no.
yeah, right.
Like,
Absolutely.
I'm not going to do that.
And you have to say no. Like
Yeah, right,
nobody's going to
because
do
you have
that
the
for you.
authority over
You
your
have
time.
the authority, so say
Yeah.
no.
I think
Yeah.
it's I think it's all those things. I think you go through all those emotions, and I don't think when you're in the moment you know.
Mm.
Like I remember many days like we have no idea if we're winning or losing.
Mm.
I mean, you really don't. But we sit in the hindsight. Now we can look back and go, oh gosh, we did pretty good at that,
Yeah.
right? And I think as long I go back to just those values, like you said, sometimes you have to say no. A lot of times what we do with the kids, since instead of having everything be a blanket yes, and maybe not wanting to say no, we would say yes as long as you X,
Mhm.
right? So I remember most of our kids have done mission trips throughout the years, or they wanted to go do a study abroad experience, and all of these different experiences. And we would say, well, gosh, that's a lot of money to, do an experience in Europe. And just to pick an example. And we would say, mom and dad will put in half of that study abroad experience, but you got to put in the other half. And we're talking middle schoolers and high schools at this point. We sent our oldest son to Australia when he was in middle school. Like we were crazy.
Wow.
But he was passionate about it. And back to that point around follow your passions, follow your dreams, be bold. He was. And we didn't want to stifle that. And so we said, we'll work to make that happen. But this is what you have to do. And he had to raise whatever the amount of money was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he did it. He did sales and extra jobs and, neighborhood jobs. I remember he collected cans for recycling.
Wow.
That's awesome.
And he would get his $3 a time, but he was building up his because he was vested in that opportunity.
Yep.
And I share that because I think it's back to that spirit of work. I think oftentimes today we're just like, no, or we say, oh yeah, sure, he'll let me write the check.
Mm.
There's a middle ground here
That's good.
where I think we can have expectations of our youth
Absolutely.
to step up a little bit, and that's okay. Because if it's not important to them, it'll evaporate. Right? If he's like, I don't want to raise $1,000. Okay, it's not that important then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Buying in does something. A little skin in the game matters a whole lot.
Yep.
Correct.
Especially, and when that's established at a young age, it develops a work ethic. It develops that ability to determine, is this worth it?
Yeah.
Like, am I actually going to do that? So what does that kid do now that he's in Australia, or he went to Australia?
That's our oldest son, Zachary, and he's a stewardship director at a mega church in Austin.
Okay. So he works, so was Australia a missions trip?
Australia was a people-to-people experience, a study abroad experience for him.
I was just
It was
curious
not a mission trip. But
because now you've got young adults. You've
I
got
do.
married,
Yeah.
single. What's all that look like?
So I have, again, 4 children. Ashley's my oldest. She works as a high-profile nanny. She's in Colorado. She's getting married in a couple of weeks here.
That's right.
So a big event there. Zachary is married, and he lives in Austin working for a church as a pastor there in Austin. Brandon lives here on the Gulf Coast and working at the church with the youth. And then Caitlin is my youngest, and she's a junior at Baylor.
So
2 married, 1 gonna be married. So 3 will be married by the end of the year, and only 1 in college. So most are off the payroll.
So we, you got a pay raise.
I did get a pay raise.
So I know that a lot of our audience
Yeah.
on this has adult children.
Yes.
Just a quick advice, or how is it doing parenting people, adults that are living their own life? Like, you're no longer in control.
Yeah, I think Heather and I use the phrase that when they reach the end of college, we feel like we've launched them, and that's a phrase that we use in our family. Like, we've prepared you to be launched, and it's at that point where they're pretty much on their own. There's no income from dad. There's nothing else that's happened, right? It's your turn. It's your turn to use everything that we've taught and instilled in you to bring it to life, and I think there's a little bit of relief as a parent, like, okay, there's a little bit of remorse because at the same time you still want to guide, but your role becomes different. You become a little bit of an advisor. Back to that conversation, you become a little bit of an advisor to your older children. We were having a conversation with one of them the other day, and we were clearly on opposite sides of the fence. And, when the conversation ended, like, it's your decision. Like, as much as Heather and I may have a different point of view, it is your decision.
Is that tough for you as a parent to watch, maybe potentially them make a wrong decision?
No, because some of these decisions, like we think at the time, they're like really big decisions, but these are not life-threatening decisions.
Yeah.
Right? These are things that will come and pass. Most of them are material in nature, right? Like, should you buy that? Should you not buy that?
Yeah.
Should you do this? And at the end of the day, those things don't really matter. So it's I think for us, we try to impart those nuggets along the way. We ensure that we've given them the values, but we've launched them, and they really need to thrive in the world.
Yeah.
And we're still there for them, absolutely. And we want to keep them close.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
I think it's been cool. Like I feel like I've grown. I want to ask one question, and this one would be a long one. From the outside, you would appear to be a success. I'd love to hear your definition of the word success.
Yeah, I don't think a lot about what success is. I think if I've treated my wife well, I think if we've got our family as a strong unit, and I think if we're contributing, I'm good. I'm happy.
It's good parameters.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. This has been great.
Episode 5. Is this 5?
That feels right.
I think it's 5.
I think it's 5.
This was
too.
episode 5.
It's not the first. It's not the 10th.
No, it's
It's
not.
around 55 years old.
It's not the 100th because that's whenever we're ending all this. But,
That's right.
Thank you for coming on, though.
Thank you.
Seriously,
It's my
thank
pleasure.
you for being here.
It's good to be
Absolutely.
here.
Glad that I was able to make it.
Hey, thank you for being here.
Yeah.
I was finally able to make it.
Don't forget to send your applications to NC Unscripted.
Yes.
Northwood.church.
You'd like to-
Makeup artists and security engineers.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and also a reminder that if you've got, I know we've received some questions in the last week. Some people wanting us to talk about some things. We'll probably tackle a couple of those next week. So be looking forward to that. I'm excited about that. But if you have topics or questions, serious or dumb, either way, you guys know us. We'll talk about any of it. And but send it in Unscripted at Northwood.church. So we have a lot going on this week. We've got applications and we've got topics to deal with.
Those
So-
interns are going to be busy.